Is there such a thing as a fair trial in America today? I question that. Derek Chauvin, who is accused of various crimes against George Floyd, is currently in a Minneapolis courtroom where they are selecting jurors or have just finished selecting, and a trial is about to begin. Many of the jurors stated that they would have great fear for their lives should they decide to acquit Chauvin before hearing the evidence, because the Antifa rioters would attack them and their families and their houses. Is that the way that we want to run a nation? Do we want the face of justice to be black and blue when she removes her blindfold? Because right now, the left is stating, unless justice, you lean one way, we are going to punch you in the eye, leaving you bruised and battered. This is not something that we want as a society. The prosecution has a question that goes something like, would you fear for your life given the notoriety of the trial? Of course, this is a leading question because they know that anybody that finds against George Floyd that has the potential to is going to answer in the affirmative to that. Whereas somebody who is clear-cut Antifa BLM is going to say, no, I've got no fear for my life. So it's a question that allows them to get rid of jurors that otherwise might be selected that would be able to hear the charges against Chauvin correctly and fairly. And that is a giant problem. Our nation was founded on the fact that you were going to be given equal justice under the law. Unfortunately, once again, the radical left is twisting justice in the way that they want. And I fear for the courts when in the future, millennials that have been enveloped and had their minds warped by the social justice movement reach the bench and are able to, with their edicts, with their gavel, present the SJW narrative and enforce it in a court of law. And if you guys don't think that's going to happen, if you think that justice is blind, you are already seeing Antifa rioters in Portland being released without charges with heinous accusations against them, like assaulting police officers, like throwing Molotov cocktails at the courthouse. The couple, the lawyers in New York City, allegedly, and I don't know this for sure, but this is definitely a rumor that I'm hearing, that threw Molotov cocktails into a cop car are apparently going to get a sweetheart deal. Meanwhile, the January 6 people that just entered into the Capitol building are having the full force of the law thrown at them. Equal justice? I think not. Will Chauvin receive a fair trial with jurors that are scared to acquit him for personal fear, for fear that Minnesota will burn to the ground? It's hard to imagine that the case is yes. And then you have Antifa, BLM setting up an autonomous zone, telling people.
This area behind me is the George Floyd Memorial. This is where George Floyd was killed back in May. Take a look. These barricades have been set up by protesters and supporters of the movement. They don't allow anyone in, not even the police. It's called an autonomous zone. And
you're going to be in a bad situation here in a second.
oh, I thought if we were on this side of the barricade.
No, you're going to be in a bad situation in a second.
What do you mean by
because
bad
you've been called
situation?
out for what you are and you need to get out of here.
Please go.
Even on
We
this side of the
know
barricade.
what you are. You need to get in your car and go.
We're just media.
I don't give a who you are.
Go ahead,
You've been
go.
called out for who you are. You need to get in your car and go.
And the authorities doing nothing about it, allowing this to happen. I really wonder whether we're going to have a bifurcation of America with a sort of disengagement with one another, where you're going to see blue leftist cities and then everybody else elsewhere. Or as I heard Mike Cernovich discuss it, a cartelization of America, where you're going to see people whose families are under siege by the radical left split off. And these are the Navy SEALs. These are the military, active military, who have been told growing up that their country is good, that their country is worth fighting for. And maybe they just break off and they say, this is the part where you guys are not going to enter into, and we are going to have our own laws and our own little enclave. And then you see, similar to what's happened in Mexico, a cartelization where you are protected not by the state, but by the local strongmen who are going to be the ex-military, those with the weapons. Because when you have Antifa that gather in mass and their autonomous zone is not shut down by the authorities, this is the natural progression. This is the tribalization of America. Chauvin receiving a fair trial once again? Likely no. Will Americans in the future be given fair trials? Sadly, the blindfold is being removed from Lady Justice. Lady Justice is woking up.